And we are live. I love it. I get to see the little says Hangout is live. Awesome. Welcome. It is the Women Think and Grow Rich conversation and coaching, and we are talking this month. We do it once every month, and we're talking about the chapter on organized planning. And you know how organized I am. My book fell apart because I've used it so much. This is my original copy. So each of them, they fell apart in chapters. So I get to read each chapter like one by one. This is the biggest chapter in the book, Think and Grow Rich. And I can't wait to kind of dive into it and share with you some of the things that I feel and believe that Napoleon Hill is guiding me to, like, yes, you have to know this too. He wrote so much in this chapter. It's so meaty. It's about organized planning, but and at the same time, it's not about organized planning the way you would think about organizing your ducks, putting your ducks in a row, kind of like that. But I want to know before I get started, who actually read it and is like prepared for conversation, not to put anybody on spot, but I want to know who to ask questions of when I go in, if you're like, if you're prepared. Um, Anyone actually read it beforehand?
I
I
read it last
had,
night.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Yay.
awesome.
I
Okay.
read I read about two-thirds of it, and I was just trying to finish it this morning because it's pretty long.
Yeah, very long.
It looks like I more like got half of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you,
Finished rereading the whole chapter myself, but I had started.
right. Okay, good. I mean, this is what these conversations are about, is because I have found that if you're just in the material, I don't want to hold a fire underneath anybody. Say, you have to show up. These are obviously, free. Come and hang out and let's talk about these topics. But having the conversation is sometimes way more important and way more valuable than actually reading the chapter, because you get everyone else's insights, and you're in the space where you're not thinking about what you read. You're in the space of allowing more of inspiration to come to you as you're going through here. And I don't recommend that all the time, but I do like doing that, especially if you've read the book before, to get in and kind of just go, oh yeah, I remember. Big point. Okay, I'll show you my real book, my most recent one, so you don't think I'm, just there's my most recent copy. And I like this one because it's got pink in it. The PDF, the PDF in that you get on the website is an older version, but it's not the original version. There's, I think, maybe 5 years difference, and the original version is the one that has the word vibration in it, and they took that out for the
Oh.
version that you have in the PDF. So he talks about thought vibrations, which was something that was so foreign, and yet in this chapter on organized planning, the thing that he's talking about organizing is what? Our thoughts. It's
Mm-hmm.
really all about organizing thoughts. It's not about taking action and doing things. As you're reading it, you think, oh my gosh, he's got all these lists. And I'll confess to you, when I first started reading this 20 years ago, I actually did, I read this kind of in tandem with reading the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin. I don't know if you've read that before, but and the autobiography of Benjamin Franklin has a couple of really cool lists in it, where he actually had a checklist for being accountable to your own personal growth. So rating yourself every day to see how you rate on character qualities, temperance, and good moral character, and just those broad things. And when I was reading organized planning, I'm thinking, I'm hearing Napoleon Hill saying, yeah, he was reading that too, as he was right, as he was putting this chapter together. And there's so many lists, and he has lists for being a leader, lists for the common, the major causes of failure, He has the lists for how to get the position you desire in a job, and actually that piece, if you have somebody that you know who's looking for an actual job, an exact position that they're looking for, just, write that down, or hand them the book Think and Grow Rich and put a bookmark right there in that and just hand it to them. Just say, just read this. Then you can read the rest of it. But it's very effective, and it's worked for so many people, just reading those things. So the part about this book is full of lists, but the lists are there to help you organize your thoughts. Got it? Yes. So, and if you're watching from the outside on the event page, and go ahead and you can tell me where you're hanging out from, and I'll make sure to say hello to you. I'm hanging out from Columbus, Ohio, and this morning, I know this is kind of a random jump of relaxation after organizing my thoughts, drinking my daughter's cup, and it's just my Dunkin' Donuts coffee, hanging out from Columbus, Ohio. And I know, anyone else want to share where they're hanging out from? Andrea, are you able to chat up and say where you're hanging out from?
I'm hanging out in Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
Awesome. And it's the same time there as it is here, so it's 9:30. Is that right? Yeah.
Love that. We're on Eastern Standard Time.
Good for you. Yeah.
And the weather's great here. So it's October 1st, and it's just amazing with the weather that we're having. So I'm loving it.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Michelle, you don't see your picture anymore, but are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. My husband is bopping around. Husband's bopping around in here, so I was muting myself out and trying to keep bopping around because he's getting off to work. But I'm in Naples, Florida.
Yay, Naples!
Started the day with rain, which was nice because it cools everything down.
I love that.
And I'm with the Costa Rican coffee. Thank you very much.
Oh, love that. Love that. Because Robin, where are you hanging out from?
I'm hanging out from dark and cool Santa Cruz, California. And I'm drinking my coffee too because I have to prop my eyelids open.
Early morning. Early morning. So here's the thing that Napoleon Hill talks about. I mean, like this is the chapter on organized planning. Okay, the subtitle is the crystallization of desire into action. The whole purpose of this is to crystallize your desire into action. Okay, so the hard work is not the action part. I want you guys to get that. The hard work is not the action part. The hard work is crystallization of your desire. Okay, that's really the work. And we have been conditioned to think that it's the work, because he talks about doing stuff. I mean, especially he talks about marketing your services. If you really want to learn how to use your imagination to come up with some, really good and interesting ways to market yourself, he's got a lot of stuff in here. He's not giving you the stuff to say go out and do all of these things, because he's given you a lot. But you can. However, the first part of this chapter says what you have to organize first, which is, the thought process, and it starts with the mastermind. Did you know that? I mean, you guys have, Robin, I know, and Andrea have gone through this particular chapter with me before. I think Robin has. I know Andrea. I know you were here the last time. We went through this about a year ago. It's the mastermind. The very first thing he talks about is about creating, your definite practical steps, which are all the organizing your mental state so you know exactly what it is that you're doing, what you want, what you're willing to give in service for what you want to receive. And it's a willingness. It's not a forcing yourself to do something that you hate, because there's lots written in here about choosing job that you love and how important that is in creating your riches. But the mastermind is really important. So we're masterminding here when we talk about that, when we are coming together. This part of this is not masterminding. This is the teaching part. But when we get together and we discuss what we're learning and we're helping each other and we're hearing what others are, what we're struggling with, and we're reaching out and we're saying, I think I can help you with that. Or this is coming to me. You know, it's really the masterminding is about reaching for information or accessing information that's not available necessarily to any one member in the mastermind group. It's accessing information, being available to infinite intelligence to come in and help. When one person's under stress, it's really hard. You know, they're closed down to that infinite intelligence, the access. When you're under stress and things are going on, you're kind of closed down to it. When you're in a mastermind group, you may be closed down, but everybody else is open, and that's the beauty of being in a mastermind. And somebody might have had an experience that they can relate that will help you open up and relax, and they may just get something that's so inspired and just for you and pay attention. And that's what the mastermind, that's the power of the mastermind. And he hasn't even talked about the mastermind group at this point in the book, but he starts this chapter out with that. So what are your thoughts about that? I'm going to ask, what is the thought about the mastermind being the first piece of organized thought? First is the desire, then holding that desire together with the mastermind group. I want to hear from you because we're together and we're going to bring in inspiration from the universe as we talk about this. So, any thoughts?
Yes. The mastermind has been, since I've come into this mastermind here, Dawn, and your conscious, our conscious language mastermind that we're in, and your empire building mastermind, the internal effects have been just transformational.
Yeah. Nice. I think you might have just cut out. Or did I cut out? Can you guys still hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I think Andrea might have cut out in the middle of her expressing her gratitude and understanding of what the mastermind is. Robin, you had kind of commented something over here on the chat box. I'd love to hear from you too. What, how did you feel when you saw this in this chapter about organized planning? I mean, this is what you're commenting on. It's a different understanding when you think of organized planning.
Yeah, it was truly astonishing as I picked this up and I'm like, oh, okay, organized planning, and I think, okay, lists and information. This is going to be a how you do it kind of chapter. And then almost, without any hesitation, he jumps straight into that you've got to have a mastermind and says compliance with this instruction is absolutely essential. Do not neglect it. And, by the way, you'll have to read later into the book to even learn what that means. And because mastermind has been something I knew about when I first read this a while back, like 20-something years ago, but not like I do now. And then thinking about what I know from having listened to you, and that he really had a mastermind that was probably his wife and one other person, and knowing that I'm in some masterminds where they don't really know what they're doing. It's just named mastermind because it's in vogue. But the truth of having one and of using it to be like a connection to all that is, and almost at the same time to be a connection to being definite and grounded. So kind of a way to be expansive and authentic and connected all at the same time.
Yeah. And so I love what you're saying. The purpose of a mastermind group, I mean, and we get so confused, and I'll say this a million times because it needs to be said. It really does need to be said. The true purpose of a mastermind is to be the container, the bigger container that holds together the mold of the desire of the individuals of the mastermind group and the collective desire of the whole. It's the container. So it's the will, if you think about it. The mastermind is actually the will, and a will is just a willingness and a focus. It's a willingness to move forward and to take action and a focus on what you want. So the mastermind is there to kind of help us individually, help us through whatever's going on, and it could be unrelated, could be our families going on, but with them holding, each individual member of the group holding in mind your highest desire. And where so many people get confused in masterminding is they want to join a group, and I'm going to say this because he talks about this additionally in here when he's not talking about the mastermind group, but so many people get into a mastermind group and they think it's for them to get. What can I get out of this mastermind group? And if a mastermind group is set up where it's not about giving and connecting to infinite intelligence and holding the desire of each individual to the utmost, that meaning that whether the individual believes in the goal of the other person or not, I'm going to take a deep breath. You're going to allow infinite intelligence to give you those ideas that will help everyone believe it. Because the belief, the collective belief that it is possible, that is absolutely going to happen, is the purpose. So that's the first thought when you're thinking about this organized planning, that first thought, moving it into a mastermind group. And it doesn't have to be a big group. It doesn't have to be 4 people. It absolutely can simply be a mastermind between a husband and a wife. And I don't know if you remember or if you've heard of Bill Bartman. He was like on the cover of, I think, Forbes as the unknown billionaire, I think is what his title was. And I was reading it and I heard a couple of interviews with him. And he talked about how his wife and him, it was really them against the world. And they kind of had each other's back. They had a mastermind. Whether or not he was going outside of, that family unit to get, to have other mastermind groups to bring in information back, but it was truly about their collective goal of together helping each other do something good and seeing an opportunity to make money through they bought loans, and then through helping other people be able to pay off their debts and feel good about it and do it in a way that was very, caring. That's my awesome. Point is they had a 2-person mastermind. It doesn't have to be 6 or 7 people. And so many people get stuck on this one because, whatever, we're conditioned not to trust other people, or we don't trust ourselves yet. I mean, and in the beginning that could be very true. However, when you find a great mastermind group, that you can truly let them know, and this is another part of this organizing your thoughts, you can completely be honest and let them know what's really going on with you. You are able to move through the emotions, or you can say process the emotions, or whatever it is that you need to do to get to the other side of it, so there's the action that is easy to take on the other side. What happens for most of us in our head when we're talking about organized planning, we're talking about organizing our thoughts, what happens for most of us, I've talked about this before, you have a desire, And then when you go to take action, before you even get to taking action, all the doubts, worries, fears, indecisions, like the 6 ghosts of fear come up, they show up, and they are in your face. Wow, I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of succeeding. I'm afraid of death. I'm afraid of poverty. What if, And you don't get to move through those emotions. A mastermind group, having a mastermind partner, somebody, and even a coach can act as a mastermind partner if you're in a very trusting relationship with them. If it's just them telling you what to do, it's not that kind of a mastermind. If they're hearing you and helping you move through the emotions that you're going through so you can get to the easy and effortless action, then that's a mastermind.
Mm.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
I can. I love it.
Okay. Well, so finding you on LinkedIn well over a year ago, Dawn, with the whole Women's Think and Grow Rich, the mastermind. And then I had joined a mastermind with other coaches that I had also found on LinkedIn. And I'm very glad I've, joined yours and joined the other one, because that's what's really helped me to understand truly what a mastermind is. So that other group that I was in was not, I think we all weren't understanding. I don't think the organizer of it, we weren't really clear about what the mastermind was to be about. Here we were just coming together, we were all wanting to build our business, and it was all about that, but the way it was done was not in the true sense of the mastermind, as you had put it so beautifully, about it being the container for us. And I was just saying earlier when I got cut out, that I truly feel through the few masterminds that I'm very blessed to be a part of, that there has been on a cellular level the transmutation with inside, internally and externally, the conditions in my life really changing, and it's just so brilliant, and I'm just so loving it.
Yeah.
And thank you for providing the containers.
Oh, you are welcome. We're welcome. There's, it's a joy. It's a joy. So thank you, and I'm so glad you're a part of it. All right, Michelle's back. I don't know if you have anything to add to the conversation. We're just jumping in. We're talking about masterminding. I know we have had some great experiences together.
I do better in the smaller groups, myself, very select types of groups of people. Haven't had a lot of good positive experiences when the groups start getting to be like 15, 20. It just gets too dispersed of energies all over, and the container seems to collapse, or things. It becomes more drama based than the other, So for me personally, I like the intimacy of a small group type of thing. I did have a question for you in regards to like the mastermind definition that Napoleon Hill was bringing up, and when he puts that together, is he focusing? Is his thought process that when he brings those people together, that they are only focusing on this one desire, to manifest this one desire, or is it like a free for all inside? Like each person gets to express their own desires, or is there different kinds of masterminds? There's one specifically for a project. Yeah. Or a manifestation,
Yeah, that's a great question, and I will go over that really in detail when we do the mastermind call, because it's coming up. But for right now, just to say that yes, there's definitely lots of different types of mastermind groups throughout history. There's been the Cabinet of the United States, which Napoleon Hill actually helped create, which just cracks me up when I think of these things. That's a mastermind group. They are masterminding to help the United States, be a more powerful union. Mm-hmm. You can have a mastermind group based on projects and goals. And then what he was observing, and this is what was happening when he was observing what was going on, because he was not really inside of the mastermind group of of Andrew Carnegie, Ford, Edison. I mean, he got to meet with these people regularly and often because he had this big calling card that said, you know, I'm writing this book, and he had pretty much open access to them. He wasn't really on the inside of the mastermind. So, and in that, he didn't really get to have his own mastermind group until much later. I think he was thinking that his mastermind was in his own head. And this is really an important thing to understand. I did this a lot of time myself because we have a mastermind. We can create our own mastermind in here. In the book Think and Grow Rich, you know, the mastermind it is where everyone gets to use all of the mental faculties in harmony for the group, the betterment of the group. What Napoleon Hill was looking at was he was looking at, you know, that powerful group of men who were brought together based on steel manufacturing and automobiles. So they all had a kind of a common goal to work together in order for their businesses to excel, all of them. The Firestone, he was providing the tires for Ford's cars. You know, there was the railroad that needed, well, there wasn't, Rockefeller wasn't in that group, but they were all providing services for each other. When you can get something like that together, I mean, it's very, very powerful. Kind of people are afraid of it, which ended up being why, you know, they eventually took apart, you know, the Bell, not Bell Labs, but, you know,
Ma Bell.
Yeah. They took it apart because they owned everything. And you can do that when you have a mastermind group that works in like that kind of synchronicity, where the people are helping each other build their business because you have complementary businesses, and that's really, you know, that in a business sense and in a business world, that would be ideal. But that's not necessarily what we're talking about, what's happening for us. Because we have complementary businesses. You know, we have complementary businesses. You have a business that helps people really understand their energetics, and you help activate like these big soul energies. So you get to the heart of, you know, who somebody is, and you can see it and feel it, and that's what you do. I mean, you do other things too, but and you're an artist, but that's the core of what you do. And so in a mastermind group, understanding what people are doing so you can help them build their business, and there's no sense of competition. The mastermind group is really, there has to be total harmony for it to all fit together nicely. And you'll find if two people are in the same industry in a mastermind group and they're not evolved human beings, they'll feel like there's competition instead of feeling that there's like a sense of co-creation. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, but there's a million different ways to mastermind. There's project-based, there's community-based, there's masterminds that are all about making money. There's mastermind groups that are absolutely not about money at all, and it's a mastermind group. If there's a goal, one goal, and it could be one goal of everybody in the mastermind group increases their income by, 200%. That's the goal of the mastermind group. So the only thing a mastermind group really needs to keep it together is a common desire. And you can flavor it anyway. And I've seen a lot of mastermind groups fall apart because there is no common desire. They call mastermind, like a marketing mastermind group, but the common goal is to increase your marketing efforts and get, better results from all your marketing efforts. If that's not very clear for the people who are joining it, they're always going to wonder what are they getting out of it, and then they're always going to wonder also what can they give to the group. So having that clear, defined goal for everybody is really important. Thinking about thoughts, that is definitely the first thing you need to think about when you're creating a mastermind group. What is the common goal? And some people say it's just to bring together like-minded people. Well, that's not a goal. That's a result. That's actually an effect of the goal. So You'll bring the right, like-minded people will definitely come if you set a goal and you communicate that goal with the people. They'll come, they'll know what you're doing. Hi, Elaine. Good morning.
I'm just rather quiet.
I see.
Came in late, missed some of the conversation, so I'm joining from an energetic place, just to recognize the love that I know each of you to be. So let me just keep it just like that for now.
That sounds good. I could feel your love energy when you popped in, so I appreciate it. I could feel that expanded love offering.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. Yeah, so we're talking about organized planning, and we're discussing how organized planning is really about organizing your thoughts, and how he goes from creating the desire very first. This is my chapter. He goes very first from this part of it is about the desire, and it's about writing those things down like he talks about in chapter 2. Then goes straight into the mastermind. Like, you have to have the mastermind. Figure out what you want, and then surround yourself with a group of people, 2 or more. It doesn't have to be much. And share with them what your goal is so they know. And so you remember what your goal is. If you're a person like me, I like to have lots of things. I like to learn new things. I like to explore new things. I like to try new things, and sometimes that can be like expanding my energy. It could be leaky energy as opposed to expanding the container of what I'm doing. It could be like, putting holes in my container. So having somebody who's there and saying, oh, is that a distraction? Or is that something to help you expand who you are? And you're like, oh, yeah. Actually, I have to have that written down. So, like, are you expanding or are you just distracted? That's for me. So, yeah, he has a million different lists in here. Any other thoughts on understanding the mastermind group, understanding where Hill was coming from when he's talking about organized planning, or just your inspired thoughts or anything that's coming to you as you're hearing this from maybe a new light, maybe you've heard it before, but we're open to infinite intelligence coming in and helping us too.
Well, since you mentioned infinite intelligence,
since I mentioned it,
my question was going to be, what are your thoughts on a mastermind group where it is otherworldly people or people connecting using doppelganger techniques to be able to connect to the collective wisdom of, having Napoleon Hill on your mastermind, and maybe, Buddha sits on it, or Jesus, or whoever that is that's aligned with your energies. Could be angels, could be somebody who passed, like a Benjamin Franklin, someone who you respect and admire, the work that they did. Maybe it's Maya Angelou, she just passed, What are your thoughts on connecting and having a mastermind group in regards that's constructed like that?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what Napoleon Hill did. I mean, he did that. He did that for years, and I love hearing him talk about it because he was talking about it 20 years after he's been using this principle of his mastermind. He called it a board room. He called it his board of directors. It was a mastermind group totally of people from the ethers and even some people that were currently alive. At the time he had Thomas Edison on his board of directors. Thomas Edison was alive at the time, and Thomas Edison came in to his boardroom meeting. He did this as a practice, and if you go back and you use the chapter on, or if you go back and read the chapter on imagination, you'll understand just how powerful our imagination is for creating anything and drawing together energies. So if you want to, you talk about, you talk about infinite intelligence and the possibilities. Yeah, the possibilities are there, and there's been precedents. He talked about it in here. The point I was making is Thomas Edison, he was telling Thomas Edison about this meeting, that board meeting that he had, and exactly what Thomas Edison said during this board meeting. And he told Thomas Edison about it, and he said, Napoleon, your imagination may not be so much, may be more reality than imagination. So he was tapping into what was going on with Thomas Edison, just through using his imagination. Very, very powerful. And if you can get a group together who gets that, who understands that, and who is willing to use their imagination in that way for a single purpose. The point is to keep it on a single purpose, or you're going to get, your imagination will attract things that are not of that purpose. Okay, this is really important. So, because if you get distracted and you think, oh well, you'll just get energies that come in that aren't helpful. They'll help you just get distracted, and you don't want that distracted energy. You really want to keep things, focused, so you can take willing, effortless action. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my guess is you've had some experiences with mastermind groups like that for you to ask such a great question.
I mastermind a lot.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
So I have a question about this distraction.
Question, Dawn, that was on my mind to talk about because Napoleon Hill describes it in such awesome detail when he would meet in the boardroom with his mastermind of the infinite intelligence. And it's something that I have myself been wanting to create my own little board of directors. And I've attempted to do this. I haven't done it in a while, and I must say, I think for me I wasn't able to really connect with it. I'm not sure if that's the right word. But now that I've, as I had expressed earlier, I feel on a cellular level the changes within myself and internally and externally. Now I've been wanting, thinking of who is it that I want to put on my board of directors and to go about my new masterminding that way. Yeah. But yeah, so thanks for asking that, Michelle, because that was in my head.
And Robin, did you have something else you wanted to ask about it?
Yeah, I was this idea of distractions. I guess that's one of the ways to deal with that is that, like what we did when we had that one mastermind, where we started out with a kind of agreement to this is what we're here for, and a reminder of that to stay on track. Because I'm just wondering about that. Unhelpful energies, kind of distraction thing. You might go into that just a little bit more and how to manage that.
Yeah, well, even we're talking, so this particular meeting could be a mastermind group. It is a mastermind group with the single purpose of discussing and receiving, more information for ourselves and the collective about the chapter on organized planning. That's my intention. And you're all here because you want to mastermind, think about it, talk about it, have a conversation about it. Within this, when we can have distracted conversations, right? It can seem like a distracted conversation to go into talking about so deeply, talk about the mastermind group when the mastermind chapter is later. But this is so much a huge part of this chapter that we're talking about it now. And we're connected to the infinite intelligence. So we are bringing in what is needed to be said. About this. So when you give yourself a big enough container, and if you listen to Abraham Hicks, Esther talk about the feeling, like going with the feeling. If everybody within a mastermind group can connect to their personal feel good expanded place, it's going to be a good thing. When people are in the mastermind group and they're feeling competitive, or they're feeling, and maybe for some people though, that competitive, there's a group of people that are competitive and they like that feeling, it jazzes them up, it really is amazing, it makes them feel heightened, it makes them want to do more and it makes them feel like there's more effortless action, then those people are going to be like-minded and be together in a mastermind group. But I just got distracted. Coming together with kind of with a general, sometimes a general container or a general idea of what you want, but having some kind of an idea of what it is that you want helps the people that are in the group have more of a relaxedness about it, so they can not be in that force, be in that state of where they have to make this happen, that they can really expand into, as opposed to force themselves into, their greater calling. So I like feeling both. Actually, I like to be in groups of people that are very focused on kind of like tiny, minute actions, because that keeps me grounded, keeps me moving forward. And then I like that big expanded idea of who I am. So, I like to be in different kinds of groups to help me grow in different ways, grow in expansion of my ideas and my beliefs, and then grow in that groundedness of physical action, effortless physical action. So for me, that's how it works. So one, I recommend everybody who has their own mastermind group, I recommend that you participate in one and then you host one, that you become a facilitator, because there's things that sometimes when you're in a mastermind group and you're being kind of coached through some of these things, there's a tendency to judge. I'm going to say that again. There's a tendency to judge the feeling that you just had. Oh, it's a habit of thought. It's just a habit of thought. And I think this is a good point at this. I'm going to go back to this chapter real quick. This is something else that came to me this morning as I was preparing. I can't believe it's 10:12 already, my time. Is that he was trying to give people a blueprint for how to break cosmic habit force in organized planning through organizing your thoughts. And he doesn't even talk about, this is really the one of the things that he didn't talk about enough in Think and Grow Rich, that I really think that, when I pick it up sometimes I hear him go, but I forgot to talk about the law of cosmic habit force, because it's so important. And the idea of, he really did talk about it, but going the extra mile, doing more, giving more, but giving more because you love it, because it feels good, not giving more because you feel obligated or you feel pressured. But it really is about the feeling. If you go through this, a mastermind group will help you break the habits of the thoughts that you have. Doing things differently, which are the checklists that he goes through, check this. And I'm going to give you a really good piece of how to help you move from thought to action. And remind me to go back to that. But he's really trying to give people practical checklists so that you can move through the changing habits. This is all he's trying to do. He's kind of got it very masculine. He's done this very masculine way of creating checklists. So give yourself every year, take inventory of yourself. And I do this all the time, but I have found that sometimes the feelings that I get when I do the checklist don't help me move forward, because I wasn't as, I don't know, on my checklist, maybe I moved backwards that year. The thing that I bring to this conversation, and I know you guys do too, is that when you're breaking the habit of being yourself, being who you are programmed to be, and moving into your higher self, which is what Napoleon Hill's really talking about. That's all he ever wanted people to do, was to connect, merge with higher self, because he knew that once you're there, once you are partnered with your higher self, take a deep breath. Everything is easy. Really, everything is easy. Because you have no doubt. You're kind of like you've got it. You're like injecting the universal drug in you, your higher self merged. I know this is crazy conversation here, but that's kind of what it is when you merge with your higher self, which is all he really wanted us to do, it becomes really effortless. Your service to the world is what it's supposed to be. And it's more than that. It's more than you could ever imagine once you start living from that place. But breaking the habit of being separate from, or breaking the habit of being unaligned, breaking the habit of looking at your checklist and saying, but I don't have a mastermind group, and that feels horrible, to being there with this and saying, I have the desire to have a mastermind group, and it feels so. This is the big point that I'm going to get to. Breaking the habit of changing this law of cosmic habit force is just look at the benefits instead of looking at what was wrong, or judging, constantly judging, and that feels like such a hard way to get going. Like I judge myself. And I can raise, my hands and my feet as being the ultimate judger of myself. Breaking the habit of that is still kind of tough. However, I have a thought process, organized plan of thinking and feeling and moving, so I can say, okay, I have mastermind groups now, but if I didn't, I could say, okay, I don't have a mastermind group. I'm thinking back to when I didn't, and it was painful. I don't have a mastermind group. What's wrong with me? Oh my gosh. I'm reading this, and he says if I don't have a mastermind group, then maybe I'm, he's got a list of things, failure. Maybe I'm not likable. Maybe I have a negative personality. Oh, jeez. Maybe I'm suffering from these fears and nobody wants to be around me. That's torturous. So now instead of doing that, I say, okay, don't have a mastermind group. What's the benefit? Like in really getting into the desire. That's this part of it. Very first part of the chapter, or getting into the desire. I have a desire for a mastermind group. What's the benefit of having a mastermind group? Oh, I don't have to do it myself. Other people are there to help me move through my emotions. So looking for the benefit, and this really talking about marketing, right? He's talking about marketing yourself to yourself. Let's talk about that, marketing yourself to yourself. What would be the benefit if you want to go through this organized planning thing, thinking about the benefit of having more money? Think about it. Wow. Instead of feeling like, this is hard, I don't have enough money and I want more money, and I'm reading Think and Grow Rich and it's not here and it's not coming, what's wrong with me? Just allow yourself to not judge yourself at all. Just say, this is where I am, I'm here. I've got a mastermind group of nobody or myself or infinite intelligence, or I can call a friend, or if you don't have a friend, I have a desire to have a friend who I can talk to. What would be the benefits of having one friend I could mastermind with? And then you get into that vibration, kind of switches the gears for you. And you break the habit of being unaligned, and you become more aligned, and then you move into that looking at the benefits of what you want as opposed to looking at the fact that you don't have it yet. Okay, I'm taking a deep breath because that was a lot of stuff, but anyone have any thoughts about this before? Because I want to hear what you have to say. Is there a place, Robin asks, is there a place where Hill writes a lot about the law of cosmic habit force? I actually think he does, and he calls it something else, in Outwitting the Devil. I can't remember the term. He probably calls it cosmic habit force. He writes about it in the Laws of Success. I think he has a whole book on cosmic habit force. And it's the same energy that keeps all of the planets aligned, right? It's like gravity. It's not anything different. And if we want to move in a different direction from the direction that we're going, it is as simple as organizing our thoughts to create a desire to move in a different direction. But there's still this force of habit that pulls on us to keep us the same, even when we're evolved, even when we're totally, sitting on top of the mountain, you've got it all going on, and all of a sudden you hear this doubt creep in, and it's like, it's just a habit. It's from a long time ago, and you can embrace it as, oh, there's a good friend from the past who I haven't seen in a long time. Or you can sit up there on the top of your mountain and decide that you need to go back down the mountain because you're not good enough to stay up there, which is total BS.
Hey, Dawn, I have a couple insights to share.
Yeah, love it.
While you were talking, I opened up my document where I have the book, and I was reading, the 6 steps towards riches. And in the first one, where it's talking about, ally yourself with a group of people, my wordplay muses started talking in my ears, and I heard the word allies turn into all eyes.
Love it when you do that.
In so many, in many religious traditions, you will see these pictures of, and maybe this is especially in Hindu and some Buddhist traditions, you'll see deities sitting there, and there are like eyes all over them. There are eyes coming out of their hands. There are eyes coming out of, all these different places, which means each different eye is just like the facet of a jewel. It's just a different way of looking at something, or it's a different blessing, it's a different perspective. And the infinite mind, of course, is all that. It's looking at anything within creation from any one of those perspectives. But what I love about our discussion of today is to not be overwhelmed with the idea of the infinite helping you. Again, inviting in, just a few that you have a sense of resonance with. And so whether it's someone from modern day history that's still alive, okay, or someone that's passed who's been inspiring, that's such a great idea. And especially when coupled with the idea of, and you said this just a minute ago, I can have a mastermind with one other person, and then if I invite some of those other expanded beings into the group, that's enough energy to keep the focus. But once again, you have to make your decision on what's the focus here.
Yeah.
So that's my little piece. I didn't think I was going to hop in this morning, but boy, am I glad I'm here.
I am too. You always have some wonderful, I love the wordplay, and I love how you find juicy words. And I just love that. So thank you. Thanks. I'm so glad you unmuted yourself and popped in. Yay. So Michelle, do you have any other thoughts?
The one thought that came through was, what if we just let go of the belief that we are unaligned?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely one of that is the only sin in the universe, right? Is believing that you are separate.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let go of that. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So let me.
So ever be unaligned? How can I ever truly be separate of something that was made of?
Yeah.
And I'm part of.
Yeah.
There is no way for me to be separate or unaligned from it, even when it looks like I'm going on a different path or I have a detour. But there's always a blessing and a gift in every one of those detours. What look like detours in my life, and every single one of them had huge blessings. And I don't believe that anybody can ever truly be off their, quote, soul path.
I don't either, right? Yeah.
It's just a matter of how are we choosing to learn it. Through what set of eyes, like Elaine mentioned, all eyes. So now we're on this arm of the Hindu god, if you want to use or this hand up here, or this everything. I don't have enough hands, but you know what I'm saying. You got all of these multi-handed, multi-eyed, you're looking at it from all these different perspectives. So instead of beating ourselves up, what if we go, wow, what interesting perspectives am I gaining from this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I so love that you called me out on saying that, because that's one of that is one of the main things that I know to be true, is we cannot not be aligned. We're always aligned. It's just a thought. It's a thought that we are separate, and that is sin. That sin is being separate, but it's not being separate, because you can never separate yourself, right? It's the thought that you are. So when I was talking about the cosmic habit force, it's breaking the habit of the direction you were going, maybe, or choosing a different path. Like if we're choosing to become something different, or expanding in a new direction. We'll just call it that, because I had this visualization a while ago, and I loved it. It was like every desire that you had was like a golden thread that just came out of your heart. Like these desires just came out. And this is a beautiful meditation if you want to actually do it. I'll just give you like the brief of it. Every desire that you've ever had is like a golden thread that pops out of you. And then when you realize that all of those are perfectly golden threads, and that, imagine that all those threads are, kind of like come together like a lotus flower, and stream straight from the top of your head all the way down and go down to your feet, and you realize they come in and they form like this perfect circle of light underneath your feet. No matter where you step, that light kind of moves into that place that you're stepping. So you really integrate and understand that you're never off your path. Like you're always on this divine path, and that nothing that you can possibly do is wrong. Creating this habit of moving in one direction, there is like we'll just call it gravity to be like you were. And if you want to move into being more expansive and more and different, you're still aligned. That's the truth of it. But now you're more aligned in a way that you are working with the universal forces. You're working with yourself as opposed to working against yourself. You're understanding that if something comes up that you've done in the past, that it's not a judgment to make. It's just there's something from my past. Here it is. How interesting. As opposed to let me beat myself up again, because that's, I thought I let go of that one years ago, or, why is this showing up again, in a new business and a new thing? Well, just, no beating it up. Just let it come and breathe into it. So, yay! I'm glad you busted my chops.
Didn't mean it as a busting chops, but okay.
I so love it when people are feeling the vibration of what's being said and like not correcting it, but like bringing more higher awareness to it. Because it's good. It's good.
Hey, Dawn, back to the wordplay. Okay. Are you ready? So
I'm ready.
So all eyes, so we had ALLEYES, and then if you take eyes and you make it AYES, like when you say I, meaning yes.
Yeah, there you go.
It's like, well, no matter what is ever standing in front of you. I mean, if it exists, it's some aspect of the divine that's showing up.
Right.
And if you just meet it and you're curious to see, like what's the meaning here, or what's the love here underneath what sometimes might look like scary. So if you take your eyes, your EYES, fully determined to to be with whatever's in front of you through the eyes of love rather than the eyes of fear, and say yes to it, then you can both experience a connection and a meaning or a message that's right there. Nice. Sorry, that was a little rambly, but anyway, it's about being with yes.
Right, which is your excuse me, which is your theme. I love that. Mm-hmm. Good. So any other, like, it's at the bottom of the hour, and I see that we've got people are popping off because it's there. So I am going to kind of end this with just the very end of this chapter. I really want to make this a comfortable chapter here. The beginning of the chapter is about the mastermind group, setting the desire, creating a mastermind group. Then a lot of to-do lists that he was talking about, like to-dos, but the to-dos are not about, what the self-assessment is really to look at. They should be the effects. If you are doing everything that he has, the effects should be evident in the list. And kind of looking at it that way and saying, oh, maybe I'm not allowing as much as I want in my life. Then you can look at it, and it's just a suggestion. I mean, I'm hearing this is great suggestions, especially the leadership. I learned every single thing that I know about leadership from this book, and not joking about that. I read it and I felt completely confident, and I've used everything in here in my life in different leadership roles. So love that. But the very end of the book is a little section called Where and How One May Find Opportunities to Accumulate Riches. But this whole section is about gratitude. I just think that that's a riot. That he talks, organized planning. First, you start with the desire. You get your mastermind group. You get them on your team working for the common, help you hold the vision, hold that container for the mold of the universe to come in, fill it with what you want. And then stay in gratitude for all of the benefits of living in America. We all live in America. Well, Andrea doesn't, but she's got some benefits that we don't have living in Canada. Got that healthcare thing. That's awesome. I can't even, and like a $2 national debt that you're mad about. That's crazy. Gratitude, though. He ends with gratitude, and also included in this gratitude is to be grateful for capitalists and capitalism. And that, for some people, can be a showstopper. I want to invite you to be, if you're still reading this and you want to do like the next level of inner work, is to sit in gratitude for capitalism in America and for capitalists, and see what that does for you internally. And this is like, people can come from all different backgrounds and all different beliefs about, like they must have gotten their money by stealing things or putting bad things in their products or blah blah blah. I mean, like, the list goes on and on and on. If you want to move through your blocks about creating abundance and wealth, this is one of a really good exercise in moving through this energy of judgment about how other people make money. Sit in gratitude for the capitalists and capitalism in America and wherever it exists in the world, because you will allow yourself to be more open to receiving capital for yourself. And when we judge things, when we judge how other people make money, we just block ourselves. So that's an additional little thought at the end of the day about like an additional, I don't know, advanced level piece of coaching that you can try out on yourself after today's called, but gratitude. You can do that. You can be grateful for anything. If you cannot be grateful for capitalism, just be grateful for the moment, for the time together. And I am grateful for you guys, for you ladies coming and joining me this month, and I'll see you next month. And I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you. Love you.